Some interesting stuff just happened in the GTA real estate market. The numbers just came in and we had a total of 6,770 sales take place in the month of June 2026, which is up by 9% year over year and up by basically 3% when looking month over month. Sales have now ticked up in every single month this year, and while that has been happening, we've seen both new and active listings decrease year over year. And when fewer properties are showing up on the market and more sales are happening, that obviously means that the market is getting more competitive. But it's also important to note that just because the market is tighter, that doesn't necessarily mean that prices are going up. They're actually continuing to hold very even for your freehold properties, while condos are continuing to have downward pressure against them. Now, the interesting thing is that we're finally seeing consumers be a little more comfortable with where things are at when looking at the overall level of sales, of course. In every single market, you have two parties that are going to be a part of a real estate transaction, the buyer, obviously, and the seller. And a large reason on why we've seen sales tick up has not only been because the buyer is more comfortable with where things are, but sellers are continuing to come to terms with where prices are at, and they're being way more realistic in today's environment. Before getting into the rest of the report, I will say that while it is encouraging that the GTA market has seen more sales take place this June, when compared to the previous 2 years, they're still down by almost 18% relative to the 10-year average for June numbers. So we still have a ways to go before we see a more normal market, although we are heading in a more positive direction right now. My name is Trey, and I'm a realtor here in the city of Toronto and the GTA who loves helping awesome people just like you buy, sell, or rent here. If you would like to see how we may be able to work together, feel free to click that first link in the description below to book a quick call with me. And if you enjoy this type of real estate content, it would be greatly appreciated if you could like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, so taking a look at prices now and individual asset classes. I want to start off by saying that just because we've seen more sales happen, again, it doesn't automatically mean that prices are going up, which you'll find out right now. We can see that for the overall market in the GTA, prices have slid by 4%, but in the city of Toronto, the freehold market is actually trucking along pretty okay. In June 2026, detached properties in the city of Toronto accounted for 32% of transactions and came in with an average sale price of about $1.64 to $1.65 million, which is essentially the same price as a year ago at this time. Detached homes also took anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to sell and achieved between 98 to 100% of their list price, depending on whether you use the median or average metric here. The most active price point was from the $1 million mark to the $1.25 million mark. Moving to semi-detached properties now, these are generally the hardest types of homes to lock up in the city of Toronto, if and only if you're going to be looking in a top tier neighborhood. There's a lot of opportunity if you're on the outskirts of Toronto or the GTA. These represented 11% of sales and had an average sale price of $1.26 to $1.28 million in June 2026, which again is down very slightly when looking year over year by just 1.1%, so no meaningful change to price here. Semis also took just 10 days to 18 days to sell and were the most active, from about $900,000 to $1.5 million. Moving on to condos now. Condos in the city of Toronto had an average sale price of $665,000 to $673,000 in June of this year, which was down 9% relative to the same time period last year. This is where the pain still is in the market. You still have a lot of inventory here that needs to get cleared out, and a lot of it is still that awkward small floor plan stuff that you hear me talk about all the time. This asset class represented about 45% of sales and spent about a month to 40 days on the market before being sold. The most active price point here was kind of a large range, as you can see, from $400,000 to $700,000, but we also had a lot of sales happening below $399,000, which is pretty amazing to see if you are a first-time home buyer. Finishing off with the townhouse market in the city of Toronto, townhouses were up by 1.5% year over year when looking at average price, which came in around the $970,000 to $973,000 mark. These represented almost 10% of transactions in June 2026 and took anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to sell. Okay, so moving on to the listing category now that we touched on briefly. If you look at my screen here, you'll see that active listings were down by 13% in June 2026 across the GTA. New listings were also down by 18% 9% year over year. I've created this chart here, which you can see both new and active listings have dropped in every single month this year, with the exception of February for the active category. Again, when this happens, competition is tighter, which we can clearly see in the months of inventory category. Detached, semi-detached, and freehold townhouses remain any seller's market with 3.6, 2.1 and 2.79 or 2.8 months of inventory respectively. Condos are in a balanced market territory, which might come as a shock to some of you, but they came in with 4.86 months of inventory, and condo townhouses are at the very tail end of a balanced market in the city of Toronto, basically a buyer's market with 5.93 months. That is your breakdown for June 2026. I hope you found value in today's video. Remember to trust the process and to always fall in love with your journey. We'll see you later.